Alright, audience, welcome back to the second round of this year's Jelly Jam. This time we're going to be featuring teams Mimics Never Hurt Anyone versus Team Mike Cubed. We're seeing some returning runners from last year that all did, in my opinion, pretty darn well. And we also have Squealer and Decker BRD on commentary. Squealer, who's participating in a later round on the following weekend, next Saturday. And Decker BRD, who participated again last time around.
Yo.
I'm going to give a 5 count, and then we'll go ahead and get this round started up. So if everybody is ready, it looks like they've all got their names set. Then we'll get the show started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, gents, welcome to the second exciting round. You two have been keeping an eye on some practice that some of these runners have been getting involved in recently. I'd say Solar, Mini, and the Mikes have been more involved with practice compared to any other group of players for this entire event. What are your thoughts going into this for these runners?
I think first we need to get something out of the way publicly. Decker, why did you dump me this year? Would you like to tell everyone?
It's absolutely you. It's not me. Absolutely 100% you. Not even kidding.
That's not awkward.
Yeah, well, it's okay. But I'm very excited for this year. The Mikes and MrsMikeMike have always are grinding. They're always practicing. They always have something up their sleeve. So I'm sure they have something ready for us.
And like Ellie was saying, by far, these are the two teams. It's kind of unfortunate. In a way, it's unfortunate that these are the two teams meeting in the first round because they are clearly the two teams that practice the most, probably paid attention the most to the scoring system, and they're going to know more than we know as they're going through the cave. It'll be fun to watch and learn, as I do have a first round match next weekend, and maybe I can learn something from the people who actually paid attention.
Oh, can we do a quick call out to who designed the custom sprites for Mikemike?
Oh, yes.
That was a team effort. So I think the art was done, of course, by Eve, who has done all the art here today. Super job, Eve. And then Dank, and didn't RC also have a hand in it? I know Dank. Yeah, well, Dank put it into the hacked it into the ROM, and then yeah, go ahead. And then RC, you can find it on RC's super awesome website, which may not be able to be posted in chat.
Yeah, we can post RC's link.
These must be the winter sprites, and there's also summer sprites. So if you want to play the cave with some added bling, there's an opportunity.
So for anyone who's unfamiliar with the Ancient Cave, it's a rogue type game. Squealer, do you want to do a brief explanation of what I mean by a rogue type game?
Yeah, I would call it a roguelike game. Roguelikes are pretty harsh, randomly generated throughout, permanent death, as in no save points. When you die, your game's over. And there are some other aspects as well. But this would, they would probably call the cave a roguelite, because it's not quite as harsh, and there are little things that you can do that are not in the same spirit as a true roguelike, like the fact that you can bring blue chests in. But for the purposes of this event, nobody's bringing in anything, and everything they get, every floor they get, and every enemy combination they get is randomly generated, so you are at the mercy of the cave.
One thing that everybody's bringing in this time around compared to last round is all 4 runners have Lexus on their team, which is not something you normally see in speedruns or competitions. But this year, Lexus has a bit of a different value, which is something that we tried to do with the Jelly Jam conception itself. What do you guys think of Lexus's involvement with the Jelly Jam already being in 6 out of 8 runs?
Lexus is the best character of the cave. This is quantifiably provable. No one can say otherwise. Anyone who says otherwise has smelly feet and they don't count, so no one cares.
Well, obviously, whoever designed the scoring system, Ellie, purposely made him a more valuable character, potentially, points-wise, but it does go along with the wonderful theme of Back to the Future and his resemblance, uncanny resemblance, to one Dr. Emmett Brown. And let's see. Yeah, you can see in chat, you can see the current scorecard for each team, which also gives you an idea of what some of the point incentives are as we go along. And you'll see that a lot of them either give an advantage to or are solely earnable by Lexus.
So something we're going to be looking at in these early floors is a couple of the objectives that the runners are going to be going for. Some of them involve having a capsule monster kill an enemy. Notably, Blaze is pretty good at that, compared to Flash, who's a big wimp. Another incentive is to have a capsule monster eventually run away, which requires them taking damage but not dying. Another point in which they want to have a slightly bulkier capsule monster that can take a hit. But also, some capsule monsters just don't have it in their code to even attempt to run away, but Blaze does, which makes him a bit more appealing for a selection now, as a 2-for-1 there. There's also going to be feeding coming up, so we're looking out for some high-value items, but there's some weaponry that's going to be important too, notably the Coma Hit and the Fagoru, which are tools that Lexus alone has access to that can hit multiple enemies at the same time.
And so just looking at the early scorecard, you can see what the points are. Some of them were earned simply by the teams they brought in, but you can also see that there were players who already earned a point from having that Form 1 capsule monster just defeat an enemy. And some of the goals have to be completed by party. Okay, I see now how this is spread out. And so somebody on Lily and Solar's team had a capsule monster in Form 1 run away from a battle.
We've also got our first Iris item in the form of an Iris armor, I believe it was, on Solarcell.
For anyone who doesn't know, the Iris items there are 9 of them in the cave, 10 if you consider the final treasure of the cave for beating the master one, which it is, because there are 10 Iris items. And if you get 5 of them between your team, you actually get an extra point.
And unfortunately, there is no speed run that has anything to do with Iris treasures whatsoever, and anything you hear otherwise is simply gossip.
Absolutely.
And we did see Mini Lily get a deadly rod there, which is super nice early on.
Oh yeah, and first 8 minutes.
I didn't happen to see whether or not she equipped it, and you can see that one of the point goals is have no more than one deadly weapon equipped across both teammates. So should she equip it, she'll be coordinating with her teammate since they're in the same voice channel. And Decker, you may remember the first year that we did it, we had to do that. I said I would go ahead and take the deadly, you said that's cool, and then I promptly ruined our run. So that was pretty awesome.
So for anyone who's unfamiliar with this game, in the Ancient Cave there are a handful of items that have an automatic 80% instant kill rate to any monster who is susceptible to it, which pretty much is any, non-undead monster in the game. For example, Solarcell just picked up a Fatal Pick. That is an 80% chance to kill any non-undead monster in the cave. Super valuable, especially if you can get on a high agility character like Artie or Tia. Okay, well apparently Minnie has 2 deadly rods because she just makes deadly rods out of nowhere. And
she doesn't have a second character on her team who can equip it, so that's not currently going to come into play.
Oh. Oh, you're right. Everyone does have Lexus. You're right. I forgot. We have no Tias or Sellens this run.
Yeah, there's a lot of misogyny in this round, and it's really, I think, inappropriate. Kind of tone deaf for what is expected right now out of the community.
There is a bit of incentive to bringing Tia or Salon in on an early.
Oh, covering your tracks now, huh?
Hey, I'm only saying bringing them early. Now, the idea is that if both Tia and Salon can wear an apron and get into a battle while wearing the apron early on, and then Providence out and swap the party to something a bit more appealing, then you can get the Providence point early on, and then hopefully after that 15 minutes is up, spend the rest of the time focusing on the remainder of the run, while potentially picking up a blue chest item or two along the way.
And again, if you're familiar with the cave and you see the players who are very experienced doing something that looks kind of dumb, they're likely doing it on purpose to earn a point. And you've noticed that already, I think it was at least 3 of our players have run face first into dangerous mimics. They did that on purpose because they want to defeat a party of mimics without getting a surprise attack to earn a point.
So if you're unfamiliar with the Jelly Jam as a whole, as opposed to a more speedrun-oriented event such as Fatal Blowout, Jelly Jam is designed to highlight events and activities and things that happen in the game that don't necessarily correspond to stuff that you would want to do, but stuff that you've probably had to do, or maybe have not really thought too much about. For instance, fighting red mimics is something people don't usually like to do, but it's something people often have to do. Finding certain fruits or casting elemental spells for advantage, or getting free twist jewels on the early floors. I guess that doesn't necessarily count. But a lot of things you see people doing now, it's exciting to force players to think a little bit outside the box and strategize alongside of a partner to figure out ways to optimally complete a laundry list of tasks while on the way to the jelly. And it's almost an event where you would say, is it worth really going for the jelly kill, or is it worth taking on a hunt for points, or is there some happy medium in between where maybe you go for points at this point and then skip the rest and then go for the jelly once you reach this point? It's something that we've hopefully encouraged a lot of debate with the various players to have to consider what the real strategy is in terms of maximizing points that you can get for a run. And of course that changes on the fly every time because every run's different.
Yeah, so I can see in chat, I missed it, but apparently Solar got a twist right when you were mentioning twist, and Decker, you were about to say something.
Yep. And actually, I think just got a mini shield as well.
And if anybody is in the interest of courting one Rocket Pants who participated in the first round, a twist jewel is the key to her heart. Just wanted to throw that in there. You might have also noticed Mini Lily has started displaying one of her superpowers. She has the ability to chat while playing. I'm not exactly sure how she accomplishes this, but she does. You should check out her stream. She streams almost every night or every day, depending on where you are. And while she doesn't have voice on, she is very much participating in chat throughout her runs. And I saw a Fury ribbon. So one of the lesser known things, and honestly I didn't realize why this happened until a few years into my caving career. There's a glitch that occurs on floor 10. I don't believe it was intentional, but you might notice on floor 10 you're getting a lot of aprons, and I don't know exactly why that is, but something happens that's bad. That actually makes the cave an appropriate difficulty level in my mind, where you stop getting red chest rings, rocks, helmets, and shields after floor 9. After that point, you have to depend on blue chests or the rare drop of those types of items to help you out. And again, I think it's actually one of those perfect accidents that makes the cave a great difficulty level. And there is a patch out there that corrects that, and if you ever play that, you'll see what I mean. Yep. So if you hear us talking about a rare red chest item, it's probably on floor 7, 8, or 9. And we saw somebody just a little while ago get a Fury Ribbon, and that is a very rare item simply because of when the cutoff is for those red chests. For us nerds, it's very exciting.
I know I'm excited right now.
Oh, let me tell you. What is this channel rated, by the way?
This is rated M for mature.
Are you certain?
No, stop, wrong, bad, stop. Guys, this is why we don't have any friends.
Yeah,
Stop.
speaking of yeah.
All right, so Minnie apparently is just stealing all the deadly rods, so everyone is good to throw scorn towards Lily, because Lily just, is that her third?
That is her
now
third.
or second?
Yeah, so
Okay.
she's pretty much a greedy hog at this point and ruining other people's lives, which we've come to expect from Lily.
If you're unfamiliar with Lily, Lily is an absolute tank. She will run just 100% after 100% after 100%. I don't know how she does it. She is clearly made of tougher stuff than I am, because there's just no way I can compete. Absolute monster. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Is Mike getting the first cores of the run? I don't recall seeing them for anybody else.
Yeah, I don't recall
Yeah,
seeing
I think
them
so.
either. Wait a second, that means really bad stuff for the other runners. So in general, enemies usually show up for about 3 consecutive floors and then you don't see them again. So if you are on floors 11, 12, and 13, you are really looking for some red cores. And if you don't see them or catch them, you're not going to be seeing any more the rest of the run. The next time you're going to see cores is not until floor 32. So it can be a real hit to your speed if you don't get those early levels from the cores. And certainly in a setup like this where you have 2 hours, it's not going to harm your run. But it's going to cost you time, and that's extremely annoying.
Oof. Already snipe on Mike.
And we see here Mike purposely fighting Wispies. That is one of the point incentives. And are we sharing in chat not only the scoring for the players, but that general Google sheet, or are we just sticking to the one?
If we stick to the main tracker, then that means the runners can see, in general, what's been earned by each... I'm sorry, the audience can see what's been earned by each player. For instance, we may have just seen Solarcast Thunder on Imps, and seemingly unnecessary overkill. There was a point to deal Thunder Elemental damage to enemies that are weak to the Thunder Element, and Imps are the first enemy that you'll see that are weak to that, so him earning that point quickly is, well, pretty good for him. Of course, you want to earn those as early as possible.
Alright, so I can see in chat, a lot of people in chat right now are familiar with these runners. If you're rooting for a team, let us know. Who are you rooting for today? Who do you want to see win? Both are very popular. Minnie and Solar get a lot of viewers when they run. But Mike and Mrs. Mike have a special place in the Luffy community's heart because they're an actual married couple who do live together without killing each other. And they run the cave together. They're a team for our events. And it's pretty cool. Mrs. Mike, superpower, she is a mother to some children, including one particular adult child who is also her teammate today, and some fur babies. And so she's kind of like a hero, you could say.
You're a bad friend.
Come on, you know him. He up till 3 a.m. playing Cave. I mean, believe me.
Cave is love. Cave
That's
is
my
life.
dream. I know.
Cave is not love. Cave is in fact your enemy.
Cave is not love.
The cave is not love. Don't ever believe that.
We have an interesting pickup by Mike. He grabbed a fireball item, a little different from the fireball spell. There is an incentive coming up eventually that involves defeating a specific enemy with a fire type elemental attack, and that fireball may come in key for him, as he doesn't have Blaze, the fire capsule monster, getting any experience right now. What are your thoughts on those elemental incentives that have been put into the point structure? Because those haven't really been too big of a deal this year.
So, anyone who's familiar with the Pokemon games, you're familiar with kind of elemental weaknesses. This game does a very good job about making them extremely viable for just about every situation. If you know the elemental weakness of a monster, you can absolutely exploit it to your own benefit. And there's several types out there. Within the different links we provided, has different guides on like which types there are, what's weak to them, etc., etc. But using the correct element on the correct enemy is just absolutely just huge in this game. Huge deal.
I just don't like being served questions like your Venicus over there, dude.
Wow. Okay.
I think you're wonderful, Ellie.
You can ask me the questions then, Squeak.
Well, actually, Ellie, you did a great job yesterday. We did a pseudo podcast interview with Ellie in my stream yesterday, getting a clearer view of what the point incentives are and what he was going for. And you may, as you're watching this thing, this is not showing you who's like the most skilled or really focusing on what is usually the goal of the cave, beating the jelly. That's exactly right. We have a tournament for that called Fatal Blowout that usually occurs around June-ish. That's not what this is. This is Jelly Jam. This is for fun. We have a blast with this. Thank you so much, Ellie, who always comes up with a unique and fun scoring system for a new way for us to experience the cave. And because of the scoring system, it allows lesser experienced players to be equally competitive with experienced players, in my opinion. And that makes it super fun. It makes it a great community event, makes it fun to watch. And it's definitely different than Fatal Blowout, and in good ways. I love that we have both types of events in our community.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like Jelly Jam is always a lot about more of game mechanics and learning like the intricacies of the cave, you know, weaknesses of monsters, different exploits, learning how to manipulate monsters to do certain things. You know, Fatal Blowout's a lot about just, you know, the final objective. Get to the master, kill the master, avoid, you know, getting brutally murdered along the way, you know. This is a little bit different than that.
And there's a lot of things that you'll see people doing in this run that are going to be different to what you would see them do in a regular 90% run or a speed run. But you'd be surprised how many takeaways out of this run are going to probably be applied to their runs in the future. There's little simple movement strats to avoid combat with an enemy that you might not necessarily think too much about. And now suddenly you have to think about how to deal with them. Well, you know, your next great speed run could involve forced combat against that particular foe, or you may need to try to come up with a way to kill them or defeat them. And if you don't have the most out of the box or standardized items, but you need to take them out anyway, I mean, you may learn that a fireball is great at one-hit killing skeletons, or you know, something else that you just never planned for. An event like this is a great way to learn all that.
And as Elk in chat pointed out, I'm old, and so I like to get on my soapbox, so here we go for a rant. Everybody knows Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals is one of the great JRPGs of all time for story and puzzles and stuff like that. But one thing that is completely overlooked because of the failure of whoever made the game, it's too easy. And you might notice that in every town you go into, there's a ton of stuff that you can buy. With all these special properties and IP effects, the game never gets into it. I feel bad for whoever had to do that, put all that together, and they did a great job creating a diverse group of items and fun effects and such, but you never get into it. Once you start playing the cave, you start getting an idea of it. Well, also in the main quest, you can paralyze enemies by shooting them with these projectiles from your, whatever they call that pack. In a cave, you can't do that. You got to face them. And then this just takes it a step further. Ellie's scoring system kind of forces you to get deeper into the game and the mechanics and all the properties of the different items and weapons. And it's deep, but it's not complicated. And it really makes, for me, the cave a rich, fun experience and immersive. Every time you find something, there's a way, almost a way, to use everything in the cave. Not everything, but, you know, Magic Guard. Heck, you even did that, right? You made a use of Magic Guard. You almost deserve an award for that, Ellie.
There were only a couple of things I could think of that involved using a Magic Guard, and some of them involve feeding it to your capsule monster, and some of it involved using so many buffs on a character that eventually a buff might fail. You might get a point credit for that miss, but I figured, you know what, just make it so everybody can use it in some way. It's probably going to be more entertaining, because then you don't need to collect 5 or 6 of them. You only need 1 or 2.
Yep. And for example, in most runs, you can find a Gladius starting on what, like floor 2 or something? In a lot of runs, that is an item you want to keep in your inventory until late in the cave. And you would never even realize or have any concept of that in the main quest, of how valuable elemental effects are in trying to get through stuff, because the game is constantly refilling your health and magic and IP for you, and then making all the bosses the same element. Silliness. So
there's a handful of enemies in the game that you're aware of that you need to have a specific element to deal damage. Like there's a tarantula boss that's weak to fire. That's pretty obvious. It cans you a fire elemental weapon right before it. But in the ancient cave, your enemies' loadouts are changing so quickly that you never know exactly what you're going to need and when you're going to need it. So there's weapons that have even weaker elemental attacks built into them that you might want to hold on to for later, because just because you got it, 20 minutes ago, you can go through 50 different enemy types before you find an enemy that's weak to fire, not find anything else that's fire elemental, and suddenly need it because you don't have any spells to deal with them quickly.
So anybody in chat who loved playing Lufia 2 but never really gave the cave a chance, I think there's still opportunity there for you to get more out of the game. Give it a shot. You can, anytime. You've seen this happen, you've seen this posted a couple times in chat already. There's an Ancient Cave community on Discord called Ancient Cave, and feel free to jump in there. There's, I think maybe the very first channel on the top left is like tools or something. And there's a bunch of resources in there that to help get you started, and it's really a great collection of stuff from the past 20 years. One of the things that just is amazing about this game, even today we are still learning things. It's awesome.
Yeah, so we've recently discovered a lot in terms of how the game's core mechanics work, and we've still just recently, and I mean by within maybe 1 or 2 months, discovered some new damage mechanics. Maybe 4 or 5 months ago, we rediscovered naming all of your characters exploit. That allows you to change not only your starting character and your capsule's name, but also every other party member's name. These are things that you'd think a game like Final Fantasy VI that everyone's studied for years and years and years would know all about. But a game like this, which is great and just kind of gets overshadowed by those bigger hits, it's nice to see that there's still enough value in paying some deeper attention. You can still get some neat things out of it. What the heck are Lily and MikeMike doing? Oh, they're struggling with green clay still.
Oh, are the runners still running? I was just kind of talking about things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Decker took a break, so that's his loss. now we get to talk about whatever we want. Getting to the run for those that aren't quite sure, there are 2 runners on the screen fighting green clays. Green clay will summon an enemy called a torrent. Torrent can be killed with a fire elemental attack, and that will earn each runner 2 points, 1 for defeating it with a fire elemental attack, and 2 for defeating an enemy that doesn't normally occur in a battle. The green clay itself can also drop a breeze fruit, I think, or an earth fruit, I forget which one. And that fruit pickup can also be earned as a point, if it's earned from floors 21 or onward.
I see one!
The torrent is rare because it's one of the only enemies in the ancient cave that does not appear in any way other than by being summoned by this one obscure enemy.
Yep. Pretty cool.
In fact, I think it's the only enemy that appears in the cave that only comes in as a summon. There's many others like that.
I thought there was one more. I made it as a trivia question in that trivia Guess the Thing or something. I don't know.
It may be something summoned by a ghost ship. I can't recall.
So, one thing that I learned recently, kind of relearned, like you said about the renaming of characters, was that there's an enemy later on that's called a Mad Ent. It's just one tile, and you can't really make out its face. It's kind of pixely. But it functions just like genies. And while I knew that before, I never thought about how to apply that. Now that I've thought about how to apply that, I think it's going to help me as I make my way through my runs. But this is a great time to promote. There is an actual video series called Decision Point, which is a terrible name, but I call it Boiling Point, that MikeMike and RC, I should say RC's name first, RC and MikeMike run, and it is awesome. The way that they break down a run, and they're able to like pause and rewind and go over scenarios over and over again to kind of understand what just happened, talk strategy. And what they do is they take a run that was significant in some way, somebody's personal best, maybe even a world record, and I'm sure they're going to do something, at least one episode, based on this tournament. That'll be super fun, but keep an eye out for that. I think it's in Real Critical's channel, so just kind of keep in mind you might want to check out his channel later and see his, what would it be, his highlights or his past broadcasts?
It'd probably be under his highlight.
Yeah, and it's called Decision Point, and it's a video series that you can check out anytime. And some of these you may say, well, who cares? A Mad Ant spins in place. But what's important is we start piecing together all these different movement techs, and in any given run, you will use some of them. And you really start to kind of like build your arsenal, if you will, of techs, how to approach situations. And then you start getting better at it. It starts becoming muscle memory, and you start being able to do it faster. And it just makes you an even better runner. But then again, how good you are doesn't even matter. I mean, just look at who our world record holder in any percent is. I mean, give me a break. So skill has almost nothing to do with the cave. It's all luck.
If you just get the right items and you don't get combat against archfiends and other things that will slow you down hard, then yeah, that's all a dream run takes. And
now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, congratulations to the Ellison, who recently broke the long-standing world record in any percent held by El Magus for what was over 5 years.
About 5.5 years, yeah.
5.5 years that some thought maybe couldn't be broken. The rest of us knew better than that, but it's so hard to make it work. And you were just so good at the game, you sat down and said, well, I gotta be somewhere in a couple hours, so let me just casually break this 5.5 year standing world record. Done. And we saw Decker Blade!
Yep, our first Decker Blade of this round for Mini Lily. All of the players today have done very well in terms of having a history of being able to get to the jelly at pretty high count, so anybody finding a Decker Blade is exciting because any one of these players are very knowledgeable enough to score and secure a kill and get there quickly enough. It's just a matter of if they decide to focus more on achieving points or going for the kill, or maybe some combination of the two, depending on what their setups will continue to be.
Well, I think the pressure is now on Lily to show everyone what a jelly kill looks like. And scoring system and winning this round be damned, she wants to show off and show everybody how awesome she is. Go for it, Lily! We want dead jelly. Yep. Absolutely, so that's a legit strategy. Everybody knows that when you get more of one item, the other people in the community who are running the cave don't get those items. So Lily should definitely go for it here.
Every runner is going for specific points, whether it being feeding up their capsule monster, or fighting certain enemies, or collecting certain drops, but there is one point that only one runner can get per run, and that is to be the first to defeat the jelly with Lexus in their party. So you'll normally get 1 point for defeating the jelly, but you'll get an additional point for doing it with Lexus in your group, and that means any one of these runners has a shot at getting 2 points just for getting that jelly kill. and that is quite a bit, which encourages a bit of more haste in terms of everyone's performance. That could be, differently spent trying to earn other points instead. Trying to earn 2 there, whereas, say, skipping the point goals on floors 71 to 80, that may be a more worthwhile play, so it just depends on what each player thinks that they can do and how they're pacing. Whoever thinks they can get there first, so it really will be a race, rather than just a competition to see who can do the most things in a certain amount of time. I do think that we're going to have a serious couple of attempts on the jelly this time. I hope, anyway.
I take it that, see, I'm not particularly familiar yet with the scoring system, but it looks like getting a fruit on, 21 through 30 is a point incentive?
Yeah, so this is a repeat point from last year. If you receive an enemy's fruit drop, which comes from 4 different enemies within this particular range of floors 21 to 30, then that nets you a point. And there's another point that you can earn by just getting one of your capsule monsters up until its final form, which can only be done by using a fruit on them. So it's a big deal to see how some of the collected fruits work in tandem with the capsule monsters that are used. Also, second Decker Blade of the night. Nice. Or of the round.
MrsMikeMike. Okay, so somebody dealt thunder elemental damage to an enemy weak to thunder. It looks like both teams had one party member do that, and I'm not sure if that occurred earlier with the...
Solarcell did it when he cast Thunder on a pile of Imps.
Imps, okay.
Which are the first enemy that you'll find that are weak to Thunder.
Wow, so Lily got the surprise attack on these evil fish. And I didn't see if it was a guaranteed one or she just rolled the dice.
Playing very safe with the dual cast of Firebird, though. And normally Lexus will not be brought into a team event because he's just not as quick, he doesn't have access to deadlies, but his spellcasting power is unmatched. And you'll notice that Artie usually being the typical spellcaster used in an any percent run, Lexus will be dealing between 50, sometimes 100 points more in terms of spell damage, depending on what the spell is, just out of what he can toss out.
I just noticed Mike looks like he's in danger, and part of it is because he's in this absolute mess of a treasure room, jam-packed with enemies and chests, and he's trying to make his way all the way over to those stairs. And if the armor B does... Ooh, this is dangerous, dude. Oh, man. Does he not have... Oh, man. At least he has an X potion. I'm not sure why he's hesitant to use it.
Oh, he needs to use it.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Well, he's got a full
This
decker.
is a bee's nest. Man, it's hard to pay attention to the other runners while this is going on, because this is really a difficult situation for Mike. He still would have like an hour and 20 minutes if he were to die or Providence now, but you can clearly see he doesn't want to do that.
Well, this is a good example of even if a player is experienced, they've done the cave for years, if you're just in a situation where you don't have the stuff, you don't have the revives, you're dropped into a messy room full of nasty monsters, there's really not much you can do about it. You're just basically dead. Or you're just going to be stalemated. There's really not much you can do about that.
But he's done well to lead a couple of things pretty far out of the way, and I think that's what he's trying to do, is just land on the stairs without taking too much damage in the middle. But he's either going to get involved in a bunch of different battles and have to restore and revive his party a bunch, especially Lexus, or he can try to avoid as much as he can, because those two Gore sprites that he's leading around, they're just time-consuming threats that he'll have to deal with recovering from.
And he must not have what he needs to kill them quickly, and that's why he's going round and round.
You can see he's very slowly kiting each one away from the stairs. And he finally is at the last one where he can proceed to move on to the stairs and get down with the rest of his run.
We saw a stun gun there, which was important in, if you saw the last race, somebody used that skillfully to get a point.
The pugs here drop a flame fruit, which can't really be used in context to get an M-form capsule monster that Mike wants to use. He tends to use Flash, the light elemental one. But
Flash healed the right person there.
Yeah. I guess it's because there weren't too many targets. He managed to pull off the proper heal. Jeez.
Got a fatal pick for MrsMikeMike.
And we got strong for Mike too, which is nice to finally have a means of recovery that's not miracles and potions for him.
So, Ellie, do you want to give a very simplified explanation of kind of what Solar is doing with his capsule monster, with the whole feeding concept, what that even means, and kind of what's going on?
Yeah, so capsule monsters in this game come in 7 different flavors, and they're based on different elements that the game has to offer, some of which are more relevant than others. Blaze, being fire, is probably the one that holds the most effectiveness in terms of elemental affinity. There is Sully, the radish, who is of the soil element, not even the earth element, the soil element, which is technically not really a recognized element by the game's enemy standards, but getting that out of the way. Feeding your capsule monster is how they evolve, where they can level up to gain stats. They'll have to evolve to learn new moves, gain drastic stat boosts, and become much more useful in the context of your late game run. Feeding in the North American version is effectively broken in this game. The game will lie to you. It will say that your capsule monster is craving a certain item, and it may not actually want that item. Other times it may try to want to eat something else and then decide that it craves eating something that doesn't exist or can't even be discovered in the context of the ancient cave, which is inconvenient. All that said, if you were to try to take advantage and feed up your capsule monster the most efficiently way possible, you'll notice that certain items will fill up one of those 32 pips of hunger at different rates. Certain items feed up more than others, and all of that's based on the value of gold that a piece of armor or equipment or whatever can be purchased for or sold for. So you'll see certain players like Solar and Mike, who spent extensive time working on feeding optimization, trying to effectively fill their capsule monsters' stomachs with proper food, be it weapons, items, or armor, in certain orders, so that way they don't decide that they've eaten something and then they don't want to eat that because it doesn't taste as good as something else. For instance, if you fed it the, we'll say a berserk blade, an item that's worth quite a bit, and then you were to later try to feed it a long knife, which is one of the most basic items that your capsule monsters can crave, it won't want that long knife. You have to feed it other things to reduce its hunger gauge back down to a level in which it would want to eat. So there's a strategy to feeding your capsule monster which has absolutely nothing to do with battle, and at the same time can be just as time consuming, if not more, in some cases, when you're just trying to get your capsule monster to just evolve.
So Ellie, can you help me with something? I'm looking at the Jelly Jam tracker for the participants right now, and in the exploration team goals, I see that half the circle is filled for both teams on, the first 3 incentives there. Does that mean only one person from the team did it, and none of the teams will get a point because they didn't both get it?
Correct. So there's certain point objectives that each teammate can do on their own to earn a point, and there's certain objectives that both people on a particular team have to somehow contribute towards in order to earn a point. So, for instance, if you look at the goals for floors 31 through 40, you get a surprise attack on an assassin. If only one person on the team builds that, and the other person does not, then no point will be earned. And that's everything on the right-hand column of that side. If you're looking at the points on the left-hand column, which are, say, earn a fruit from battle, like Solar just earning the charm fruit, or anyone else earlier earning the, I think it was the earth fruit, whatever Mike was going for, then that would be a point that they could earn on their own. And you'll see that there's several different dots or circles that are illuminated. If you look at the names on the top of the Jam Tracker link, you'll see Mini Lily, then Solarcell, then Mike, then Mrs. Those are what the bubbles correspond to from left to right in terms of illumination.
It does look like the second one down, the 11 to 20 team goal, across both teammates hold 2 sour ciders and 2 charred newts. Even though only one side is filled, that means they will get the point.
Yeah, so in this case, for the 11 through 20 goals, both teams have completed their solos and their team goals.
There is an air whip, which is a really great blue chest weapon that Solar picked up, but I don't believe we have any female characters in this round. Still, it'll be good capsule food when the time comes.
Yes, anything that comes from a blue chest, with the exception of, I guess, the catfish jewel or the earring, can be fed to your capsule monster to give it a lot of satisfaction. And if your party members can't equip them, like the air whip or the ruse armor, which I think MrsMikeMike got the ruse armor earlier, then that's great capsule food for later, especially. Now, Minnie's in a cruddy situation where she's trying to get, I think, either safely around this assassin or at least get the surprise attack on it. And it just looks frustrating to deal with, but they've trapped it above a door facing left, which is going to be good for it to try to not be too threatening, even though it has the ability to one-hit kill a particular party member.
Yeah, the one tournament experience I'll always remember is one of the very first Fatal Blowouts, I think, where Shadow kept having to run into assassins, and the assassins never killed him, but essentially stripped him of all his resources so that an enemy just a few floors later finally defeated him. And that's how they can be super annoying, is with the instant death stuff.
I think assassins are the first enemy that have access to a one-hit kill attack that you can encounter. Granted, you find blue mimics first, which will just slaughter you, but it's not a one-hit kill move. So, for instance, fighting a blue mimic that uses frenzy, you can wipe out 3 of your 4 party members, maybe only 2, but Decker would probably survive if he's in the back row. But a terminal blow just has a chance to one-shot regardless, and that can sometimes be a little surprising if your team's not quite prepared because you're deciding to just let some people stay dead because you don't have recovery options, and then suddenly you fight assassins and you think, oh, Decker's manly, he can tank everything with his big mighty armor, and then he just gets one-shotted.
I bruised like a peach. I'm sorry.
Looks like somebody did survive an instant death attack from an enemy. It was Lily. Now, on the team goal side, does the side of the circle that's filled point out which runner earned it, or does it always fill the right side first?
On the team goal side, that is... It only fills the right side first, the brighter side first.
Okay, so I think it was Lily who managed to do both. Got us.
Yep, it was.
Surprise attack on assassin and survived an instant death attack.
That's right.
And we also saw Ruse armor. Again, a wonderful blue chest item with instant death protection, I might add. But again, since there are no ladies, it will be food fodder.
Now we're getting to the point where some of the more tedious goals are either completed or moved past. For instance, farming a fruit can take a long time. Surviving an instant death attack can take a while. Defeating mimics can be a while. Some of the later challenges that are coming up, are ones that don't necessarily take as long. For instance, applying a status ailment to a Sphinx. You can do that and then run away from the fight. Getting surprise attack from a ghost ship could mean having 2 ghost ships back attack you, but because they're unable to do anything, they would only use defend, and you could just run away from that. I have a feeling that we're going to see the pacing of each teammate ramp up a little bit as soon as we get to floors 40 and so on. Or sorry, 41 and beyond. 41 people are going to be preparing to get ready for fighting Twist Jewels from Bryn's Lizards in particular. And those are things that people want to kind of take a few minutes to hunt for anyway. But by that point in the cave, you're almost halfway through. You've got a lot of options for dealing a good amount of damage. Now, early on, you just don't have as much yet. You're having a boom turbine for Mini Lily. That is a great helmet for Artie, but also Lexus, who doesn't have too many options for blue chest equipment. He doesn't have any armor that he can use from a blue chest. And he has 2 shields, I believe, that he can use.
I think that's right. 1 weapon?
Only 1 weapon.
Spear, the water gaunt, and
Mirror of Darkness.
Yep, he can't use the Aqua Helm, which is unusual because Artie, Pia, and Salon can all use the Water Gaunt and the Aqua Helm, but for whatever reason, Lexus can't use the helmet.
So I don't know if it's a deleted item, if it's in a Japanese game or what, but I know there's an item. I think it's roughly translated to safety helmet. I know he can use it. I don't know if that's a blue chest item or if that's something that was deleted, but I do know that he can use it, and I remember, or I feel like that he could bring it into the cave, but I don't know if that's actually true. It's been so long since I've heard about that.
We now have 3 runners with a Decker Blade. Decker Blade! Let's do some jelly kills, guys. Who cares about the points? Let's do it!
Yeah, this event was designed to really put a lot of thought into whether or not you should focus on scoring points, or whether or not you should focus on going for the jelly, and especially when you're dealing with runners that aren't quite as familiar with the cave. It'd be good to be partnered with a teammate who does know what to do in order to have them encourage you to say, hey, if you need to stay behind on these floors, this is how you can collect this fruit, this is how you can strategize with these enemies, I'll go focus on killing the jelly. But when you find a Decker Blade, your brain just has that switch flip and say, oh, maybe I can, because that represents such a massive amount of damage at the jelly that no other combination of gear can replicate. Mike has I think he's the only one of these runners that has a record of completing the ancient caves any percent in under,
under a minute?
Under an hour?
Does he have him sub 50? I don't think he has a sub 50 yet, or
he has a 55 minutes or something, I think.
Even if you don't, the main goal is sub 111. We call that sub RC.
No.
Well, no, and I say that out of love. I love Real Critical. RC is like one of my favorite people in the world. But if you can do sub 111, that's, if you're a new player, that is a fantastic speed. I've never done a sub 1. I don't think I'm ever going to do a sub 1. If I did a sub 111, I would be very proud of myself. That's a fantastic run for this entire cave.
So Solar and Mini are both sub RC, and Mike is sub hour. So there are a lot of very talented runners here in terms of showcasing just good times and efforts. And MrsMikeMike, although not having too many runs completed, she does have a number of times at least reached to the jelly, which, considering how few runs she's done at all, goes pretty far in showing her talent. So I do expect anyone who picks up a Decker Blade to be able to confidently say, hey, at this point, I'm going to go for it, and just decide, hey, it's 466, I'm just going to dive for the jelly now, and probably make it if they have 30 minutes to spare.
So Ellie, I haven't really looked at it, but if you were to have a great run, for example, like Lily's having so far, and you could beat the jelly in an hour and 30 minutes, I mean, then your run would be over. You can't even go back in and earn more points, right?
Yep, and that's a point that was a little point of contention in previous Jelly Jams, and this year I decided to change. Where in the past, some people would say, hey, I defeated the Jelly in an hour and a half, I got 30 minutes, so I'm just going to go Providence out and take advantage of going through some of these early floor points that I skipped on my way in. Now, this time I made it so that way you have to try to plan your event so that way you get to the Jelly around maybe the 1 hour 45 mark, having earned as much as you can. So that way you can't go back in and then tinker around at the beginning floors and try to win even harder than you may already be winning. Because it's hard enough to get a Jelly kill as it is. Nonetheless, get there.
And once again, I think that just plays into the spirit of the tournament, which is to even the playing field for newer or less experienced runners, so that everybody has a chance to win the whole darn thing.
Absolutely.
I feel like it also emphasizes taking the full 2 hours to do everything that you can, as well as getting to the Jelly and defeating the Jelly, whereas in previous runs you could try to do it in an hour and a half or so, but then you still have 20 minutes or 30 minutes. You know, for the people that have practiced this periodically or even heavily, you'll see that anyone who makes it to the Jelly at this point is probably going to get there with 10 minutes to spare, given how you can already see how our runners are barely halfway through the cave and just about halfway through the time limit. So their timing is going well. The points are going to become a little easier to earn as far as simplicity, despite them being more threatening or dangerous goals that require a bit more thought to decide whether or not they want to even go for them to begin with. But it's still a deciding factor of if they think it's worth it, or if they should just sacrifice the last 2 points for floor stuff, or last 4 points for floor stuff, and then just, you know, turbo the Jelly because they feel like they've got a kill and they can get those points more safely than dealing with Orkies or dealing with feeding up an extra capsule monster.
And in case you're joining us late, there have not been any deaths yet, nor any use of Providence. And I think, well, looks like maybe MrsMikeMike is a little bit very well. So is Solar. They're both at Assassins. And I think both MikeMike and Mini Lily have already been to Green Cores. Let's see. Yeah. So Ninja's right around the corner, right?
So, question, when it comes to MikeMike and using shield, should he be using it on all characters? Because I know on all characters it doesn't matter, like in terms of the potency of it, but in terms of like the point objective, does it have to be on the same character, or does he have to use like the magic guard up on just 4?
So that point requires
times?
using
Like, how does that point
4
work?
int / MGR boosts all on the same turn, so I was surprised that he cast Firebird and then opted to have his other 3 characters do what they did in that case. I'm going to double check and make sure I didn't mess up on the rulings, but I'm pretty sure that I phrased it so that way they all need to happen on the same turn.
Yeah, you did. Or round. I can't remember what word you used.
Oh, there we go. Use 4 buffs to enter magic resistance in a single turn of combat. I really don't know what MikeMike was thinking there. Maybe it was just a misinput. Perhaps he was discussing something with his teammate and lost track of what he was doing. And that's something else that everyone in the audience should definitely be aware of, is that each team here, the top 2 runners and the bottom 2 runners, are in communication with each other as of live. They're talking to each other right now. MikeMike and MrsMikeMike living together have the benefit of not even having a shaky internet connection affecting their ability to communicate. And all 4 of them should be able to strategize pretty well with each other, but there are times that you might be trying to do something while talking or advising your partner through another sticky situation. You may do a misinput or a miscalculation. So it always makes you think, how focused are they on their own runs versus trying to make sure that their partners are doing what they're doing.
You know, having done this with Squealer before in the past, he and I have been on a team. You know, one of the biggest things is communication, especially with the objective of, you know, one deadly item between, you know, your whole group. there's got to be constant communication of, hey, do you have this? Do you have this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And it's surprising how much attention that takes away from your actual run, because the cave itself takes a lot of your attention. If you're not really paying attention, the cave will absolutely just decimate your face. Like, to give you a good comparison, like, if you're a hamster, the cave is a blender. That's pretty much how this game goes. And if you're not paying attention, you're a poor little hamster going into the blender. And having to communicate constantly with a teammate, especially when you get onto like the later floors, it's super difficult. And there's a lot going on there, so any sort of like team objective or like teamwork it's a lot more than you would think just by watching it, but it's a lot of fun while you do it. I was surprised how much I enjoyed doing Jelly Jam last time I was in it.
I think what's surprising me a lot about this run is if you had looked at our previous run, if you were here for that, we had 2 runners with 24 points versus 26 points as our finishing total, right at the time finish mark. Right now we are exactly at the halfway point, and our 2 teams have nearly as many points as the winners from last time, and they've still got an hour left to try to earn the last 6 points or however it may be to just have bragging rights to say, hey, I earned the most points in the entire run. Mike is getting a really hard time with ninjas right here, but you'll see some interesting play by Mini Lily. She's up tinkering with Sirens.
Capsule ruined it.
Oh. No, so both Lexus and Artie were affected by confusion for a moment. Lexus healed out of his confusion, and then the capsule monster kill happened. So the point there is to have 2 or more members affected by a status ailment that is dealt by an enemy, and Sirens can be notorious for wrecking runs by confusing your entire party and having your entire team just kill yourselves or slowly.
Are you seeing this situation that Mike's in?
Yeah, this is a scary.
He's got a ninja treasure room.
Oof.
One of the scariest rooms that you can be in is a ninja party room, where enemies, like the ninjas, will aggressively charge at you.
At least he's in a doorway, but this is... I'm not sure why he's not reviving people. It must be that he's low on supplies and doesn't have Rally or Valor.
I believe he only has Strong for healing, but for revival items, I think he only had maybe a couple of miracles. And he may be trying to see how long he can last without using them.
Yeah. And he did that earlier, really kind of hoarding his revives until a time he thought for sure he would need them, but man, this is tight. Old Decker the tank, right?
These Iron Gorems are pretty thick to take out. They're not gonna outright kill Decker if he's in the back row and they're not getting back attacked, but they're just fast enough, they hit just hard enough for your entire party with an Iron Kick attack. It can be pretty scary to deal with. You can see that Mike saved his resources to try to deal with these red plants, and he's been slowly plodding his way over while strategically blocking one of the ninjas from being able to encounter him. So it looks like he'll be able to make it through pretty safely. These red plants are scary because they can do 3 attacks, and when they do their 3 attacks, they'll do them on the same party member until that person dies, and then they'll move on to another one. So if they decide to target Lexus or RD or our hero, then that's just a lot of damage that they'll have to take. So he's going to be dealing with these Gorems here, one at a time. Very deadly sandwich, holy moly.
Oof, it's a nasty sandwich. As someone who's been knocked out of a tournament by Iron Gorems because I wasn't paying attention, they are really nasty if you're not careful.
They resist elements. They have a decent chunk of HP and durability for the time that you encounter them. They can hit your team pretty hard, and Mike has no choice but to kill them to get through. So he's going to have to hope that he can keep Decker and one of his healers alive, in this case Lexus. That way Decker can have IP get filled up to spam bomb attacks, while Lexus keeps the 2 of them alive. Otherwise, he's going to be just sandwiched here for a very long time. And he does have a Decker Blade, which is a pretty big thrill. Of course, he wants to make it as far as he can. Takes a risk putting Decker in the front row so he can deal a bit more damage. But of course, that means he's taking more damage at the same time.
So are all point goals worth the same amount of points?
Yes. Technically, all point goals are worth the same amount of points, and our first wipe, unfortunately. The team points are not necessarily worth half a point as much as they're worth nothing unless both players have participated and earned the point towards it. So we have our first loss, which is MikeMike, which I would say is a big disappointment because he's got probably one of, if not the most, experience in practicing this since the conception of the Jelly Jam itself. But Minnie and Solar are still going strong. Minnie Lily at Hydora's working on getting a Hydora Rock, which is worth two things. One, it's worth the point if you and your teammate can combined hold 2 Hydora Rocks. And 2, a Hydora Rock is just a great addition to your damage repertoire for when you actually make it to the jelly.
So Elliot, we're looking at this tracker. How does it add up to the points at the top? Is each thing worth 1?
So effectively, there's the floor goals in which each participant can earn 1 point, and then if the team goal is met, then that's an additional point. So if you were to look at Mini and Solarcell's points for their floor exploration goals, they've got 7 points for their solo accomplishments on the floor goals, plus another 4 for their team-based accomplishments, which they've both fulfilled. So that's 11 points that they've earned through floor accomplishments alone. They've also got a couple of other points that have been earned through things such as defeating a torrent, or having a level 1 capsule monster run away, or bringing flash gusto laser gels. So that's another set of 6 points on top of the 11 that they've got. And then they've got a couple of others scattered around here and there.
Okay. I don't understand. That score is right, 21 to 19?
Yes.
Alright.
MikeMike being the first to go down is unfortunate, but it means that he's likely to take advantage of a few of the other points going on, including the set up a party to have full HP, MP, and IP, which he can do with Decker. He has swapped his party so that way he can get an apron equipped to Tia, which I believe is who he brought. That can be a half point, which MrsMikeMike might try to take advantage of a little bit later on if she ends up having to escape and re-enter the cave.
Okay, so the dark circles are filled circles, but the empty circles, I just don't know why the full circles aren't the same color. That's my bad.
Well, I will say please take any and all complaints, concerns, and criticism to Real Critical, the designer of our scorecard.
Yeah, that should go well.
Absolutely. Real Critical is completely to blame for all of our problems and frustrations today. If you want his personal email, you just let me know. Post it in chat.
Put things nicely, Real Critical has done a lot for the cave community in terms of housing data. He hosts the AC ref link that you see as a command, which is a wonderful storage and compilation of data. And he's been a benchmark of the any % speedrun for how long now? as a sub RC title, being the standard?
No ones are recognized. I mean, once we started having this flood of like sub 50s, and we've got a ton of people now with sub 1s, I'm not even sure that's relevant anymore, except maybe for newer runners.
Not everyone has a sub 1, guys. Come on now.
We might get our sub 2 this time around with Mini and Lily making pretty good progress. They are the furthest by a noticeable amount, and with 50 minutes to go and less than 40 floors to go, I feel like
you see Mrs. Mike's room there?
Oh, that's an icky room. Mrs. MikeMike and Solarcell both have kind of interesting rooms.
So viewers, does Mrs. MikeMike have to go into that room? Or is she just trying to get some brinzes out of it? Because that room looked like hell to me. So Lily is fighting Warm Eyes here. It looked like maybe she was in a horizontal hallway and just wants to get them out of the way. Oh my gosh, the way she's playing this, I think she has to go in there.
Oh.
As long as she's got the means to keep up her MP, it's going to be a time sink, but she can make it through for sure. Maybe she's trying to lure any additional enemies like the gargoyles over as far as they can go. That way they can block ninjas as long as possible and enter the room from the bottom.
Frosty. Yep. Lily just keeps kicking... Yeah, I can say that, right?
Oh, that is a nasty hallway for Lily.
And she messed up a little bit there, but she did get the 50-50, and I see now why she defeated all those Warm Eyes. They were just going to be a problem if she didn't get rid of them. And she does have a deadly, so she should be able to take care of this, even if she needs to run in between kills.
Solar is just raiding all of these lucky items. He gets a Thunder Jewel, which is a pretty nice accessory that boosts attack and defense. Not too many do.
So she didn't run between... Uh-oh.
Ooh, Golden Mist.
Yeah.
Mini is... I believe she's
Everybody
done
close
here.
your mouths.
I think Minnie might be, I don't know if Lexus is going to outspeed a Gold Gorham.
Yeah, that's her only chance, is that Lexus outspeeds and is able to do like a smoke ball or something. Otherwise, I mean, he would have to have like an apron shield.
I don't think an apron shield will even protect them from this at this point.
Close your mouths, everybody!
There we go. We have our second wipe.
So what happened there is she was feeling good. She was rocking and rolling. She got a kill with her Deadly Rod in the first round, knocking it down to 2 Gold Gorhams. And she didn't do safety strats, which is fine by me. But when you don't do safety strats, Artie has a propensity to miss.
I mean, that's just a really good example of how this game works, is like, you can have the most experienced player, you can know the monster movements, the monster weaknesses, all that stuff. If you just get unlucky and you don't hit the deadly hits and you get really nasty monster moves, it doesn't matter. You're just dead. That's how the game works. Part of it is just straight luck. It's just like any other poker game or any other card game. If you don't get the luck, you don't get the luck. Sucks to be you.
And then what also was tough is her faster characters were the ones killed after the miss.
Yeah.
So that in the next round, there was no chance to do anything.
If Artie had survived, it would have been a whole different ball game, but with Artie being dead, there was just no chance. I think level 30 Lexus without any speed boosters is too slow to outspeed a Gold Gorham, unfortunately.
So imagine Your hopes and dreams resting on Solar. How scary is that?
I got faith in Solar, guys. Solar, you got this, buddy.
He's got the big guy on his side too, huh?
The Masker?
Yeah. Christian God. Woo!
I'd be praying for some good luck at this point.
You can pray all you want in the cave. The cave doesn't care. The cave will just straight up kill you because it can. The cave is not your friend. The cave is not nice. The cave is mean.
The Sinister makes a good point. The Solar Cell being the deepest in the cave is probably the least equipped to deal with the jelly.
Yeah.
But Mrs. is not too far behind him, although making it 50 plus floors in 55 minutes is pretty challenging in the context of a run like this, where getting points through other completions and objectives is maybe more fruitful in terms of trying to earn the win.
Sinister Rain in chat is more prepared than I am. He's actually tracking on paper what Jelly's setups are. Very nice, Sin.
A twist jewel for MrsMikeMike means she gets the rock point.
Nice.
Twist jewel's a great one to have.
Whiz.
It's the other than the dragon spear, which can only be used by 2 people, it's the item that boosts agility by the most, or I guess the second most in this case. And agility is a great stat, because as you saw what happens, if enemies outspeed you, they can just golden mist all over you and ruin your day.
So there's still a ton of time left for point earning. And of course, we're all paying attention to the 2 runners who might have a chance at getting to the jelly. But don't forget about those point incentives.
But the Iris item point incentive can happen at any time. Either runner still has an opportunity to use Providence. So if things go south for Solar and MrsMikeMike, you can assume that each team is probably going to rely on that Providence point. And will likely also swap their teams around to get Tia and or Salon in, and then do the apron double for that additional team point. Nice Thunder Ring for Mini Lily. Mini Lily also finding Shield, which is part of that use 4 buffs to enter magic resistance on a single turn of combat. Mikemike had the opportunity earlier, but messed it up by using a Mind Gourd at the wrong time. If Mini Lily can get one, either a Mind Gourd or a Magic Guard, then you can bet your bottom dollar that Mini Lily's going to take advantage of that. But you can see how close the score is. It really, if one teammate decides to try to get to the jelly and go for the jelly kill, and foregoes using Providence, while the other one tries to capitalize on every single little bit of points that they can get for other stuff, you know, at this point, it's still an anything goes game. I'd say with things being 2 points away, it's going to be tight, but I can see either team maintaining the lead.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like Solar is purposely facing some of these sirens, trying to kill them off one by one until there's one remaining, so that he can get the point for having a status effect inflicted on all his characters at once.
Well, Solar Cell earns the point for having 2+ members afflicted with the status ailment.
Oh, is it just 2+?
2 or more, yep.
Was it last year all 4 characters?
I think last year it was 3 or more. It may have been all 4. I'll have to double check.
Yeah, that was pretty cool because it made it the timing of escaping or making your team slow enough they wouldn't escape before the sirens went a really cool strategy thing. Shrieking, huh?
Dark Mirror from Mikemike.
Dark Mirror is the one shield, or the one, I guess the one blue chest item, but also the one shield that all party members can equip, including Lexbeth. But it has the downside of being cursed, and when you equip a cursed weapon, you need to use a cursed lifter to take it off, and that can be a problem in some runs, such as an ACAC run.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, an ACAC run is Ancient Cave, all characters, which is where you decide to punish yourself by doing the cave twice in a row. So you go in with maximum 3 other characters, you beat the jelly, you go out, you select 3 other characters you didn't choose before, and you go in to beat the jelly again. And the benefit is any blue chests you find on the first run, you can take into the second run. And if you're lucky enough to find something like a Dark Mirror that anyone can use, that's great. If you find something that, for example, if you found ladies-only equipment, and you took both the ladies into the first run, well, it's just capsule food at that point for the second run.
And there's a Decker Blade again for MikeMike. So if he wants to try to break the any % world record, he's got a chance here.
He does. Scary situation for Mrs. MikeMike. All 4 of her party members got put to sleep. Decker managed to wake up, but if all 4 of your party members are either asleep or hit with paralysis or confusion, you don't get the ability to enter any commands for your turn, including run away. And that just means even more scare for yourself to try to hopefully survive. Because it's a whole additional round of combat where your team
That's
might
a point incentive at least, though, right?
To have 2 or more party members afflicted, yes. But to have your whole team? Well, if you want to go for bragging rights and say my whole team was down, then I mean, you've got that. As Captain Ratix says in chat, once you uncurse it, you can't take it in on your second leg of the ACAC run.
That is correct. The only benefit you get out of uncursing it is it does lose a little bit of defense, but it does get protection against instant death. That's the only benefit you get out of uncursing it. But you cannot take it into the Ancient Cave anymore, and if you uncurse it while in the Ancient Cave, I don't believe you can take it out any longer.
That can be an especially big problem if you were to equip it to, say, Artie, who may be holding a deadly rod, which you would want to uncurse at the jelly for your first leg, or Tia, or whoever it is. Because if you uncurse a deadly rod and also the shield, because the curse lifter uncurses everything a person is equipped with at the same time, you may inadvertently sell yourself out of being able to use the Dark Mirror on your second leg.
And for anybody in chat who's not already, make sure you give the game, Lufia2, a follow on Twitch. There are multiple people streaming the cave every day. On occasion, you'll see plenty of people trying to beat the main quest. And it's never really like this Jelly Jam. People aren't playing with a 2-hour time limit or trying point incentives. It's almost all speed runs, but that makes it really exciting, and we have a fun community.
And if you happen to live in Europe, or speak German, for instance, there do tend to be quite a few runners over in that particular area of the planet that either just casually play this game or speedrun the Ancient Cave that do showcase German as their language of choice as well. So this isn't just restricted to English primarily, or English and Japanese primarily. You have even Europeans that can enjoy this age-old classic.
Yeah, so Chico's asking, unfortunately there were no jelly appearances or kills in round 1. We're dangerously close to having the same thing here, as Sinister Rain is pointing out. Both of the deeper runners would need to accelerate if reaching the jelly is what they want to accomplish. But because this is a points tournament, they may be more focused on earning as many points as they can. As you can see, if you click on the Jam Tracker link, or if you've already got it pulled up, it is a tight match, 23 to 22, and still lots of point incentives that are early on in the cave that they could earn.
So Mrs. Mike scores 1 Hydora Rock, and if she gets another one, then that is a team point that she herself has fulfilled entirely. Again, these scores are extremely close, and with all 4 players effectively having the Providence point to whip out at any point, there's not too many options in terms of tie-breaking points that they may have to take advantage of. So the tiebreaker being based on floor depth, or deepest floor acquired at a certain point, may seriously play a factor here.
And so in chat, somebody's asking if anyone is set to kill the jelly right now as far as equipment. We do know that a couple runners have a Decker Blade, but I don't know if anybody has a full outfit of stuff that's guaranteed a kill. Did Solar end up getting a Decker Blade? No, I don't think he did.
I think he's the only one who has not yet found one. It's a pretty ugly room for Solarcell right now. You got some dangerous, time-consuming enemies in here that he has to make it through. There are a few enemies that will approach him slowly. There's a few enemies that, as he gets a little closer, they'll approach him very quickly. And he doesn't even see the stairs yet, I believe. So he has to try to make his way through somehow, just creeping downwards without applying too much combat to himself. But again, that's just time spent dealing with enemies that, don't give a ton of experience or suck up time away from your clock. In this game, time is such a huge commodity to be able to do as much as you can. This is Mikemike getting, I believe, the first no-core of the round. No-core is giving the most XP out of every enemy that's in the cave. While Mikemike himself fighting Amamikes, a very threatening enemy that are known to tickle you down pretty hard, and that is rough. So I believe Mini Lily was on floor 63 when she got her wipe. And Mikemike was at floor 44 because he was in that room with ninjas when he took his wipe. So Solar and Misses are very quickly getting to the point where they would be deep enough to break the lead held by Mini Lily for having the depth. Breaker. They're both on 61 or 62, which is pretty incredible to see two runners who have been taking it a little bit more cautiously, making it at still very similar pace.
Well, I think it just kind of shows you that, like, if you rush through the cave before you're properly geared, have the proper, the proper supplies and equipment, the cave is just going to steamroll you every time. If you take your time, get some extra stuff, some supplies, it's not quite as bad. But if you're speed running this cave and you're just ignoring chests and ignoring monsters and not getting those extra levels you could get by actually like fighting stuff, the cave is merciless. It'll just absolutely steamroll you over.
Solar got his Decker Blade.
But now all four of our runners tonight have found a Decker Blade, and currently 3 out of 4 have one in hand. So with some of the point incentives coming up being rather difficult to acquire, especially in the 70s and beyond, we may see our runners just forego trying to earn those additional points and dive down towards the jelly. As a reminder, if you do kill the jelly with Lexus in your party and you're the first person to do it, that's 2 points you earn. And if you can defeat the jelly before your 2-hour time limit runs out, which is going to be awful tight, that would be an additional point as well. So for some of our runners like Mike, and Minnie who are back at the start of the cave, they have a bit more time to do some other things. But Mrs. and Solar have a legitimate shot to score 2 or 3 points just by diving for the jelly, rather than struggling to fight against some of the deadlier enemies if they can make it that far. You can see Mrs. struggling to rotate that gold Gorham, get herself down into the next hall, or the rest of the hallway safely. Ooh.
Yeah, thanks.
That's a lot of pain for Mrs.
Yeah. Oof. Not a common ability, but Phoenix Blast times 2. Oof.
And so where Solarcell and MrsMikeMike are practically on the same floor as each other, Solar has about 5 extra levels worth of durability on his team. And it may not seem like that much, but especially on units like Decker, who just have so much HP, having all that extra HP really, really, really matters. Especially when dealing with enemy magic, which is going to become very relevant pretty soon. You want to just have the ability to absorb as much damage as possible. For units like Lexus and Maxim have a bit less HP, and Artie is respectable. Decker has practically twice as much as them. And eating all that damage can just be the difference between playing a little bit risky, taking a couple of extra rounds of combat with stuff that you don't think will end you, so you can plow through a scary room or a couple of tough encounters, versus having to slowly kill each one. Interesting find by MrsMikeMike, our first Myth Blade of the day.
Hey.
So we've talked a lot about the Decker Blade and the Myth Blade. We haven't necessarily explained why they're as important as they are. Decker, what do you think? Your name is in the blade. Why don't you take that one?
Alright, well, My mom said that I am the coolest kid in school, so Decker Blade is intrinsically the best weapon you can find. But if you want to be a loser and ignore that, it's because the IP attack on it is Fatal Blow, which does 50% of any monster's remaining HP. So when you're fighting the jelly and you only have 3 turns, 50% of his 10,000 HP is 5,000 damage, which is just a catastrophic amount of damage to deal to any monster from one player at a time. Mythblade, on the same token, is 25% with an IP attack. Same thing. That is a just massive amount of damage for anyone to deal. But I think my mom explanation is probably better, but whatever.
So if you
And
have
of
been
course,
kind
with
of
this
keeping
being
track of-
Lufia, 50% is not 50%.
Yeah, so the way damage is calculated for physical attacks, which also applies to these fractional damage abilities, is if you're in the front row, you deal some additional damage up to 12.5%, or I guess 1/8 of whatever your damage would be. And if you're in the back row, you deal 1/8 less damage, or 12.5% less. But there's also a 12.5% RNG factor. So you can deal with a Fatal Blow, or that 50% less and nothing else. I think you can deal somewhere around 6,200 in total. If you have spent maybe the prior couple of actions using Trick to boost your attack power, or whatever other options that you have. And having one character deal over 5,000 damage when in one single attack, when most of your other characters can't do over 2,000 combined with all of their best alternatives is just astounding in terms of damage.
I mean, there's only a handful of fractional attacks in the whole cave, between all the different characters, and Decker himself has the best. Mythblade is only equipable by, Decker, Maxim, and Guy. You have Old Sword, which is what, 1/8? No, 1/6?
1/6, yeah. So, unfortunately, Lexus is the only character that does not have access to a weapon that can deal a amount of damage based on current HP in a fractional capacity like that. There is the Gorgon Rock, which anybody can use, that deals 1/8 of the target's current HP in terms of damage. But you want the big toys. You don't want a little tiny thing that only does one usage. Even the Deadly Rod, which can only do 1/8 worth of current HP's damage, that can be used by Artie, Tia, and Salon. You can use that up to 3 times at the jelly if you have a full IP gauge. And doing it one time, of course, may be a pretty good chunk of around 1,200 or 1,300 damage, but having that second use can be an extra 800 or 900 damage, and that can really add up.
So chat is rooting for Solar to go, but Solar is playing it pretty safe. He's opening a lot of chests. Chat seems to think he's got close to a kill chance. Might need one more thing, but he may be running out of time here if he doesn't kick it into gear. Mrs. Mike maybe, yeah, Mrs. Mike going for the Orky incentive. Oh, hippo-poo.
And Squealer paying attention to his cat, because, cats are more important in the cave.
Alright, everybody get your kitties out, it's snuggle time.
I mean, he's not wrong, but...
Mrs. Mike is here going for the Orky incentive, which is a solo point, which involves surviving a round of attacks from all Orkies on a screen, or all enemies on a screen, as long as one Orky is present.
Oof.
So, it's a lot to deal with. If you have Decker, and he's in the back row, you're usually going to be able to get out of it without dying if there's one Orky. If there's 2, that's 16 attacks that you have to deal with, potentially, and that is usually a run ender.
So we do have a question from a newer arrival, Brazilian guy in chat. Yes, Lexus is good, but is rarely used. In this case, the point incentives incentivize our runners to use Lexus based on the theme of Back to the Future, which is the theme throughout the Jelly Jam tournament this year, as he somewhat resembles Dr. Emmett Brown from the Back to the Future series. check out the scoring system when the link pops up, or if you don't already have it open, you'll see that some of the point incentives are geared towards him, or he just has a better opportunity to get those points.
I think Mrs. Mike is trying to get a surprise attack. I don't know if she... Is that a specific point incentive? Is it getting surprise attack by a ghost ship?
Mm-hmm.
So that is an incentive as long as it's done on the correct floor. But there's also the incentive to defeat an enemy that doesn't normally appear in an encounter.
She definitely has it now.
The skulls that a ghost ship can summon they qualify as enemies that don't appear in an encounter normally, so Mrs. Mike just earned that point. I don't think she was able to get the torrent point earlier, so it's good that she's got this one. The ghost ships can appear on floor 70, but the point incentive cannot be earned until 71.
How so?
Oh, it's just the way each of the floor incentives go is that from floors like 21 to 30, 31 to 40. So just because a ghost ship appears a little bit early, the incentive isn't for it to happen, but it's for it to happen within that particular floor range.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
Also, the get surprise attack by a ghost ship is a team incentive, which isn't really going to play into factor here when both teammates don't can't make it to the ghost ship. Although Mike might be able to make it to ghost ships at this rate.
So it looks like the score is 26 to 26. This is getting good.
Ooh. Mike almost getting hit by ninjas there.
Well, if he makes it past the ninjas here, he will have beaten himself.
Some would say he did that earlier. So yeah, Solar clearly investing time into this battle and trying to get a drop, and yeah. Now, is getting Gorgon Rock in any way related to a point incentive?
It is not, but if you count the jelly kill point incentive, in which 2 or 3
he better get a move on then.
Oh,
he just hit floor 75. 25 floors, 18 minutes, let's go.
But considering at this point there's very little combat you really want to engage in, ideally if you're not holed up by genies and Hades chariots and archfiends and leeches and all that, then you can make it through these last 25 or so floors pretty quickly. If you're going to go for the point incentives that a solo runner could earn by having all 4 party members with 0 MP or feeding a capsule monster from form 1 to 4. Those are 1 or 2 points that runners can earn from floors 81 to 98. And if you think you can get the jelly kill with Lexus, then that's 2 points right there. So you may be safer just diving for the jelly kill instead of trying to play around with genies. As long as you've got the survival and the means to make it, which Lexus is hanging on by a thread for Solarcell.
Solar is still opening. We do know there are some capsule feeding potential for points later. But again, that would require him probably to make it to the jelly floor before the 2-hour mark so that he can get as much time as he needs to feed.
So the feeding incentives would require both runners to get their capsule monster to an M form.
Ooh,
I
I
don't
gotcha.
think that's gonna work. Solar's in a pretty sticky room right now.
Oh boy. So the stairs must be under the top 2 Archies?
No, I think he loaded into this room. I don't know if there's a door below
Where are
that
the
feed
stairs?
or not.
Oh, it's in the bottom left? Somebody... You said?
No, I think at the bottom right. Ooh, a gold eye for Mini Lily. I think at the bottom right there might be a doorway. But they loaded into the room in that spot.
So Lily and Solar went up by a point. I'm not sure what's the last point that they earned.
I'm checking that right now. It looks like they both had the torrent point mark, but they did not have the defeat an enemy that normally does appear in the encounter mark, which means that they both earned it without marking both of the pips to show that they had earned it.
Gotcha.
Mike is playing with Iron Golems
Oh,
again.
there it is, yeah. Oh my gosh, this room... This room is almost perfectly sized for screwing Solar. There's just not enough space to not activate like 3 different Archfiend sprites. If he had like one more, the room was just one more tile bigger, he could maybe maneuver around without activating them.
It goes to show that just because you get small floors and small areas where the stairs are easy to find or discover and you don't have to wander around looking for them, it doesn't necessarily mean that your small floor is going to be easy to work with. We saw Lily get stuck in a tight hallway, which had a couple of things that she spawned into. The stairs were easy to discover, of course, but the 2 or 3 enemies that were in there were just so much to deal with. He's stressing.
He might be thinking, are there any points I can earn before I maybe die? Because he knows that's a double Archie. And he may have used his only smoke ball, I'm not sure. So this is one of the problems that you run into when you run in these tournaments. Even though they have a 2-hour time limit, if you're busy taking your time opening a bunch of stuff or beating enemies for safety levels, you have to leave a buffer of time for the end of the cave, because some of the scenarios you encounter take a lot of thinking and arranging and equipping and different things that you need to do just to be able to survive. As you can see, Solar's doing his best here to survive, and he might be able to do it. It's just taking a massive amount of time because it's that hard.
Yeah, he may just be discussing with Min and Lily too to try to say, hey, is it worth me trying to keep going? Or is it worth me providencing out? And you'll see he just providence there. And if he does providence out, is he going to dive back in? What can I continue to try to earn? Versus, should we both providence out and then try to maybe get that apron point, in which we both have to fulfill that requirement in order to earn it? Or should you keep trying to dive?
That apron point's been mentioned a lot today by commentators and in chat. Can you tell us again what that one is?
So if both racers can equip an apron and enter combat while using the apron, then they'll earn a point. Or they'll earn credit towards that point. Both runners will have to do that in order to earn 1 point towards the point total.
That was interesting to me that when he providenced, the Archfiend moved 2 tiles.
I thought only they would move 1, so I guess using the Providence counts as an action in which enemies will react to that by doing whatever their move is. So if the Mikemites can somehow acquire several more points, then they will they will be leading in this tiebreaker, but MrsMikeMike has a bit of a sticky situation to get through this hallway. He has to get IP back up in order to take advantage of that Myth Blade. But it is possible that she could make it there to the Jelly and secure the kill right before time runs out. I think for the case of points, Solar probably played it as safe as possible. And by providencing out and taking the time to score 1 or 2 more points, they probably did it, you know, exactly what they should have done. MrsMikeMike still having almost 20 floors to go and 10 minutes to get there is going to be kind of tight. I gotta say, I'm rooting for Mrs. here. I don't know if they'll even be able to get everything put together in order to earn the Jelly kill, but it's exciting to see the opportunity for a Jelly kill, as it always would be in an event, because it's rare that people can do that to begin with. It's definitely a bragging right and achievement, to say the least. But if you get the kill on top of making it to the Jelly in a marathon setting, you know, that's nothing short of a bragging right in itself. So I applaud the guts.
Making it to floor 99 at all, in and of itself, is a bragging right.
Yeah, you see how hard all of these runners, out of our 8 runners today, so far nobody's even made it to floor 90.
On floor 85, she's still got time to do it, especially since on these later floors, enemies can be pretty well spread out. She got Voltage Bolt to boost her IP, which is perfect timing. And starting on floor 88, that's one of the floors I really pay attention to, because 88 means no more Archfiends. Losing a few frames here, but yeah. So it's 28-28. The Mikemikes earned a point to tie it.
I'm checking to see what they just marked.
If there's a tie, there is a tiebreaker, and that is which team went deeper into the cave. And in that case, it would clearly be MrsMikeMike breaking the tie.
Yeah, again, I'll say hats off to MrsMikeMike. Probably, even though she has a pretty good track record of success in the Ancient Cave, she probably has the least experience with running the cave.
Yep.
I think I've only seen her participate in maybe a dozen or 2 dozen runs, although I know she's done some off stream. But her and Mike have been a ferocious team of competitors.
I think her favorite thing isn't running the cave, it's participating in the events. So chat is pointing out something interesting. We know that Lily is reading chat, so that it's not like she could forget.
I know she's reading her own chat, but I don't know if she's reading the RPG Limit.
I think she is, because she's responded to some people, I think.
Oh, yeah, there she is right there.
Yeah.
Things are getting a little tight for MrsMikeMike here, with 5 minutes left to go and about 15 floors to go. If anything goes wrong, then absolutely whatever plans they have could fall right apart. Now that said, if MrsMikeMike's Maxim can have enough IP to use the Myth Blade, then Lexus not having enough IP to do anything might still be okay. Because again, he is a very potent spellcaster. He can sit in the back row and use those without any cause or any problem with his team. Oh, you got 10 floors to go in less than 5 minutes. Now, as a reminder, the way this event is set up is that if you make it to the final floor, you have as much time as you need in order to adjust your equipment, do whatever you need to in order to make sure that your party members, your capsule monster, everything is ready to go. And while there is a point that it can be earned for defeating the jelly within the 2-hour time limit, you can still earn a point just for killing the jelly, and also another one for being the first to kill the jelly with Lexus in your party. So that's 2 points right there, that even if MrsMikeMike can make it and just take her time, you can absolutely earn to help boost up their team to a pretty secured spot in the lead. As you can see though, any roadblock is going to slow her down to a screeching halt. You need to be very, very careful that these dragons don't slow her down. And I cannot tell just by looking if she has enough IP on Maxim to use that Myth Blade or not. How much IP is it? 75%? Or 76%?
So Mike's going balls to the wall here for trying to get that Hedora rock. He kind of sort of lost he kind of sort of got Chico'd there, but face checked by a pair of high Hedoras. He's doing anything in his power to kill and stay alive, trying to get that drop.
And that's what's so exciting about this type of race too, is that you can see, even though the players have been knocked out, they're not done. This isn't like a speedrun tournament where if you lose, game over, you've effectively lost everything that you have in terms of trying to make it through the cave. You still have a shot to make it through. You still have a shot to earn a couple of points here
but no drop. And we're really paying attention to that, because if they can get that Hedora drop, that would put them at 29. We know that Lily is sitting on a point. So right now they're... Okay, he did not get the Hedora.
All right, Lily's on 98. Does she still need IP for Maxim?
No, Mrs. is on 98.
This is on 90.
Yeah, Mrs.
I don't know about her IP situation. Does chat know?
It's been a while since we've seen the status screen or if they've adjusted their equipment enough.
She took that voltage bolt, which when that happened, I think it did give enough, but I can't remember what's happened since then.
Oh, she's engaging combat against these coppers right here.
Oh, Lexus has nothing.
Lexus with nothing, I think would still be okay if she can get that Myth Blade off.
Yeah. So basically, if she can manage to actually get to the stairs, she might actually be okay, depending on what she has. Oh, she needs to stop playing around with that.
Because the Mythblade doesn't take a lot of IP, right?
I think it's 76%.
She's got enough right there.
I think she does have enough. I think she needs to stop playing.
What do you usually say, footsie or something?
Yeah,
No.
footsie. She needs to stop playing footsie with the dragon.
You say grab ass.
Well, she needs to stop playing around with the copper dragons, which she needs to stop doing.
I think she's saying, hey, maybe I've got 30 seconds to burn here, but she doesn't. I don't think she knows where the stairs are yet, which is the big concern I've got here. If she saw the stairs, then that's different.
I don't think she has that luxury.
Let's get punched.
She needs to go find those stairs. 30 seconds.
She did see it before.
The stairs. Okay. You did know where they were.
Right.
All right.
Well played. All right.
We have.
Calm down. Okay, so she has time.
Yeah, time to do a lot here.
All right, MrsMikeMike, you got this.
So again, as a reminder, we are allowing time to go over the limit in this case. You want to do what I enjoy doing without your calculators.
Can we talk for a second here about the absolutely just bonkers luck that MrsMikeMike seems to have in certain situations? Because I'm gonna be honest, just wow.
She actually hates Lexus.
How terrible for her.
And it was a bit of effort to get her to use Lexus for the easier points, and so she grew a little. Broadened her horizons.
Did anyone see Maximum Vibe through there? I didn't get a look at it.
I think he has
Lexus only has 59%. I don't think that's enough for a triple attack.
might be enough for the stun gun. That's points though, right?
Oh, the flag point.
Stun gun, coma hit, warrior.
To do what?
I thought it was bonus incentive points to have like Lexus do like stun shock or something.
Oh, that was if both players were able to do it.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately, both players didn't. So whether or not you defeated the jelly, if you both made it to the jelly and tanked it with the 1x from Lexus or a tier 1 spell, then that would also earn credit.
Is there any chance we can get her music playing right now?
Give me just a moment. I don't know if I have her sound.
Basically evolving her capsule monster, which is basically a fancy Pokemon that you can't control. Now, you feed order equipment, you know, weapons, shields, etc. to your capsule monster. It grows stronger. All of it's based on the gold value of your equipment, whether or not it grows stronger. It can grow all the way up to level 4 plus its master form. So she's trying to see if she has enough equipment, if she can raise it up as high as possible.
It doesn't look like I'm able to get game audio from Mrs. Mike's game, unfortunately. So
maybe can you play the battle theme for the master then?
oh, I certainly will once the battle officially starts.
Absolutely, no better song to have on.
So I'd like to throw it out there that Mrs. Mike being the first of all 8 runners today to make it not only past, I think, floor 85 or so, but to make it to the jelly is absolutely incredible. I know you were talking about earlier how she just had a great string of luck, but again, this is...
She is weaponized luck. Weaponized luck, man. And skill, of course, obviously, considering she's done better than I've ever done.
Oh, hold on. I may have some game audio porting in. This is not coming through very loudly.
All right, so her capsule monster's level 3. She can raise it 1 more level by feeding it equipment. Once it hits level 4, she has to feed it one of the elemental fruits they farmed on like floor 20 to floor 30 or so. So let's see if she has all what she needs.
Give me a moment here while I fix something else up to get sound in. Oh. Okay, I think I've got the game audio correctly now, so you can hear Mrs. Mike scream. I don't know what that riveting sound is, chat. I'm sorry.
That's probably me pouring a drink, sorry. Was it a clinking sound?
Oh no, it's like, I think Mrs. Mike had some ASMR playing in the background or something. You may not be
Oh wow, never mind. Yep, remuting that. Never mind. That's bad. Oof.
Alright, everyone, whip out your calculators. We're about to have ourselves an exciting finish. We're excited to see what the fatal blow turns to be, and also the damage off of the Myth Blades and Battle Fury. The other damage from the others is going to be important nonetheless. Using Trick on turn 1 means there's attack power boosts all the way through. Ooh, I didn't see what that damage was.
Yeah, frame drop city.
Blaze contributes by punching. If we assume a completely average Battle Fury, then that means that the Fatal Blow could have been high if the Battle Fury was high. This missing number is killing me right now.
Yeah. This actually kind of gives it more like anticipation.
Yeah. There's one major piece of the puzzle that we just didn't get to see. Big Decker crit there right at the end of round 2.
Nice. Crit!
Ooh. Whatever that was 3 full turns of combat, and unfortunately, MrsMikeMike did not secure the jelly kill.
Man.
Without seeing
Must have been some low rolls.
Yeah, without seeing what the Battle Fury from Maxim's Mythblade was, and also the Fatal Blow being the number that it was, it could have just been that the fractional damage output was not that great, and it just wasn't enough. And also having Lexus not able to use that Hydora Rock was a killer. I'm sure that would have made a big difference too.
That was an awesome run, though.
Fantastic all around.
Yep,
Yes,
so-
very exciting.
So give me a moment. I'm going to bring everyone into the main chat while I get the scores tabulated here and identify who the real winner is. So there's a lot of adjustment to the points there at the end.
Who's the real winner?
One moment, please. All right, everybody, you are now in the group. That includes runners, so feel free to let us know how you feel as though everything went. And even though MrsMikeMike is not in the voice chat herself, definitely congratulations to her for making it to the jelly, doing as much as she did. I just need a moment here to tabulate
We're
scores
at
and
the same place.
confirm
Let's
everything.
continue to talk.
Cheers to MrsMikeMike. You did spectacular.
Yeah, GG, MrsMikeMike.
Thank
That was
you.
really, really close.
I haven't seen the score yet, but I'm excited. I promised the kids that I would watch the replay with them. They were very adamant about that.
I'm sorry, everybody. I know you all think I'm a coward for providencing from the Archfiends.
No.
No. There's no such thing as cowardice from Archfiends. There's common sense. Every runner did amazing. Cheers to everyone.
While I'm tabulating scores, I do want to point out the moment that got me the biggest internal laugh. Mike, what the heck were you doing when you used that Mind Gordon shield?
Okay, so I didn't have MP on Artie, and I'm like, oh, I'll just do it next round. Oops. Anyway, who won?
I'm still tabulating the scores just to make sure everything is correctly applied, because when it's as close as this, I gotta double check.
Was it close?
Currently
it's super close.
the scores listed as 29 to 30 with you guys in favor. Mike's.
Well, I'm glad that someone was carrying me. Did you miss Mike?
Thank you. That was a lot of fun, and the kids were sad they didn't get to stream it while we were going, so we'll be watching it later to celebrate you, Solar and Minnie.
They're tabulating scores. We don't know who won yet, but your mom made it to the jelly.
Did not get a kill though.
Well, how far were we? Did anyone tabulate damage?
It was lagging a bit too much, so we didn't get to see what the battle theory was.
25, like 44, I think.
Ooh, that's low. That's really low.
Yeah, it was low.
Yeah, someday we're on the long list of rural internet lines, so maybe in the next couple years we'll have fiber the rest of the world, but for now we're on DSL. Sorry about the lag.
Okay. I'm pretty sure, after reviewing all of the points and going through as much as I can, the only way I could decide if there was a difference in point scoring, or if something was miscalculated, would be if there is a situation that both teammates had one person that had full HP MP IP that I might have missed, but I believe the points are accurately totaled out, and Team Mini Solar, Mimics Never Hurt Anybody, with 29 points, came in second behind Team Mike Cubed with 31 points, over a 2-point lead. So unless I missed something, congratulations Mike Cubed for proceeding into the next round.
GG's Mike Cubed.
Wow. So thanks, guys.
That is
Great race. I mean,
close.
that was high scoring on both teams. Exactly what I was hoping it'd be.
So Ellie, is it 2 more Saturdays?
So it's actually the next 3 Saturdays.
Woo!
There was an update that I need to make to the RPG Limit Break schedule, but next Saturday, January 15th, will feature the next 2 rounds of the event, the quarterfinals, including Squealer as a participant, as well as other participants from last year. And these will determine the teams moving on into the semifinals. That will be held on the 22nd of this month. And then the grand finale will be held on the last Saturday, the 29th. So we'll be excited to see how everything ramps up for the finals. There might be, from what I've received a little bit of input of, a couple of small changes made to the point structure when the semifinals and grand finals kick in, just to make some points a bit more either easy to earn or some clarification. I need to go through a few things. But the points that were earned in total today showcase just how much there was to do. Whereas last year, I think the grand total of points that could be earned was 36. This year, there's about 60 points which can be earned. And you can see a fantastic total earned. And Mike and Solarcell and Mini and Mrs. These were the 4 players I anticipated scoring the highest amount of points in total, and you saw a wonderful performance by all of them. So absolutely, congratulations again to all of our runners today, to Mrs. Mike for getting to the jelly and coming as close as she was, and just doing as great as spectacularly as they did. Thank you again to the commentary crew that was here all day. Eve for our fantastic artwork, Real Critical for the scorecard system that everyone, including the audience, could use to keep track of points. And you'll see on the calendar, which should be on the RPG Limit Breaks details or description info, somewhere down below if you scroll down a little bit, there's a calendar that has the time listed for the event as in when it will be held next. So mark it on your calendars, folks. This is happening again next weekend. Show up on time. Tell your friends. Tell your family. We got a big hole to go climbing through, and it's going to be exciting to have a few more friends along the way. With that said, we'll bid you all adieu. Thank you again for watching, and we'll tune in next weekend to see you all then.